So what is the takeaway from this new dump of Epstein files released? That just because you're in the files doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But it could mean you did do something wrong. It's embarrassing for a whole lot of people. And I want more files released. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. Radio show is connected. Let's begin. Bring on more of the Epstein files. It's all I want. It's all I can ask for. More and more
Senator,
and more and more. Now, just because somebody is listed in these files connected to Jeffrey Epstein, the quote-unquote financier, the guy who was engaged in providing underage sex to people seemingly across America, who was allowed to kill himself, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think I'm the only person who holds Bill Barr responsible for this. You let this guy be in jail. You didn't have guards on him. You didn't have him watched. Camera wasn't working. One guy's looking this way. One guy falls asleep. Next thing you know, he kills himself. And hey, we've got nothing. The video shows it. The video shows nothing. You let this happen. And we wanted answers. And then Trump was like, why is anybody paying attention to this? Oh, a massive misread. And we said, we want answers. And people, some people on the political right said, but Trump said we shouldn't pay attention to this and it's the wrong subject. And we said, don't you tell us of how to be supportive of President Trump. We want answers because he works for us and not this other way around craziness. Tony Katz, that's me, by the way. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. We're not going to get told how to be loyalists. We're not loyalists. We voted for Trump because Trump could do the things that we wanted done. Wanted a secure border. Boom. Voted for Trump. Got a secure border. Wanted to drain the swamp and get rid of the madness and the fraud, waste, and abuse. Boom. We got Doge. We at least got started. And then for some reason we stopped, which I think is a really bad idea. We need to get back to that immediately, if not sooner. Because you think that we've got fraud just in Minnesota when it comes to daycare centers. Oh, the fraud is everywhere. Could you imagine what we could do with all of the money we're spending on the fraud and abuse? How about just giving it back to the people? How about reducing the size and scope of government? But if you want to do something with it, how about ensuring that we have enough nurses and doctors going forward, and not nurses and doctors who are being indoctrinated into this absolute nonsense of medicine that's based on, well, if I don't like your religion or your political stance, I'll let you die. How about a medicine where we don't say, well, you check off this box and this box on the diversity scale, so we don't care about your grades. It's okay if you go treat grandma and she dies quick. You don't think that's happening? We all know it's happening. People not able to be up to snuff of all races and all creeds and everywhere else being pushed through the system. And we get substandard medical care. Bad, bad, bad idea. But when it came to the Epstein files, hey, Trump says we shouldn't be paying attention to this. We shouldn't be paying attention to this. Nah, you're wrong. We're right. We want all the files everywhere. Now, it did lead to a question. If you release all the files, are you going to release redacted information? Are you going to really tell victims they have to be outed? I didn't want that. And I was willing to accept the fact that there would be some redactions that would take time to get all of that done. And with that said, still said, dear Lord, I want these things released. Well, now you've got a huge dump of documents, millions of documents. And what the documents show, as people are still going through them, is a whole host of things and connections with people in sports and people in celebrity culture and entertainment. The question before us is, were these people involved on the island? Were these people involved in their homes having Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell or anybody else bringing them young children to abuse? That is the only question. The people who want to scream, Trump is a pedophile, they're just pathetic fools. You're so desperate to be political, you can't actually take into account that children were abused, and we should find the people who abused them and throw them in jail. Screaming Trump is a pedophile is as dumb of an argument as there is out there. It's as absolutely stupid and brain dead as Billie Eilish screaming blank ice, which she's saying as she's accepting a Grammy yesterday. We're living on stolen land. Blank ice, you child. People get killed and you don't care because you can pay for the security. Don't you know you're part of the problem? You're not above it all. You're not kind. You're not decent. Billie Eilish, you're not a good person. Who told you you're a good person? Your brother? He's not a good person either. You don't think people should be protected in their home from illegal immigrants, and you think law enforcement is somehow wrong for doing the job that's on the books voted for by Democrats. Dear God, Billie, do you ever actually think before you speak? You think you're good? You should stop thinking you're good. You should stop thinking this because you're not. You're not. It doesn't matter what your fans say. The facts are what you believe is everybody else should suffer while you have guns keeping people away. Disgusting stuff. Disgusting stuff is thinking that anybody associated with abusing children should be able to get away with it. So yes, I want the Epstein files. I want them all. I want every single file, everywhere I can get my hands on a file, and I want the information released, which brings us to Senator John Kennedy. Senator Kennedy, who is out there speaking with CNN on this exact subject.
Kennedy, another important story I want to get to. The Justice Department finally releasing its tranche of files related to Jeffrey Epstein. They did so on Friday. The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, says the Department of Justice is not considering bringing any additional charges related to Epstein. Is that acceptable to you?
Well, I don't know yet. They haven't released all the documents. That's my understanding.
They released 3 million additional pages, but there are reports that another 3 million are still being held.
Here are the two things that I'm fairly certain of. Number one, this issue is not going to go away until the Justice Department releases every single document, every single picture, every single email.
And you want them to do that?
I want them to do that. I've said that from day one. Number two, there are some of my colleagues who have boldly stood on the floors of their respective bodies and said, we know who needs to be prosecuted. We have the names. Now, there are only two possible reasons for them saying that. One, maybe they're on real strong drugs, or number two, they know. If they know and they're making those kind of allegations, then by God, they ought to give us the names and they ought to be prepared for the litigation that follows if they're wrong.
Now, I agree that we can't be playing this game of not getting the information. I want it all. I want every last bit of the information. If we can't see our way clear to not being political about this, but saying who's abusing children, if we can't do that on both sides of the aisle, you have only begun to understand exactly how far gone we are as a society and why I have made the argument here repeatedly that the only way out is through. COVID came and we couldn't agree on how we were going to address COVID. We said, let's just everybody fall back to their fiefdom and attack each other politically. It was ridiculous. Children get abused and we say, how can we hit the other side with this? As opposed to, let's find the abusers. Do you want to protect an abuser because they're in your party? The founders warned about party. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were concerned about parties. And really, you can get into this through the Federalist Papers and the idea of factions and how issuematic this is. But I think that for to a large degree, we fall into groups of people who agree on certain things. And then that's how we operate. We're not a larger group of people that opposes the abuse of children. That is what we're saying here. These people who are attacking ICE were not part of a larger group of people that says we are a nation of laws and people who broke the law should be held to account. Well, those people are saying no, they shouldn't be held to account. And if ICE changed all their tactics to where all they did was lay out cotton candy as a way to trap people, they'd be like, oh my gosh, they're trying to give all these illegal immigrants bad teeth and diabetes. They would never think that anything was okay. They are too far gone. We're too far gone on finding child abusers. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information. I don't know how any of us are supposed to process that information. How far gone are we as a society? So absolutely dependent on our political fiefdoms that we won't recognize Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal, moderate, independent, doesn't matter. Somebody who is sexually abusing a 13-year-old needs to go to jail. But no, seemingly we're not there. Back to Senator Kennedy.
But this has gone on long enough. The American people don't trust government. That's the fault of both sides. And if I were they, I would release every single document and picture.
We'll see if that
and
happens.
Protect the victims, but do it.
Yeah, and redact the pictures of the nude girls and women.
Well, I don't even know if I would do that. I would redact their faces. I would protect their privacy. I haven't researched it, but any simple excuse that people can find not to believe the Justice Department, they're going to believe it. And
that's a very interesting position he just put out there, which is normally maybe redact all those things, but when nobody believes, when nobody trusts the institutions, you have to release as much as you can to try and rebuild the trust. So no, don't redact. That is something else. That is something else for him to say. It's a harsh statement, but you get an idea of where it's coming from. I have not yet, because I was away for the weekend. I was at a conference, and so I haven't yet gone through everything that is in these in this latest batch. There's stuff that involves the NFL, and I think the Tisch family, which is connected to the New York Giants. There have been some people who are in academia who have now resigned because of connections. There was a thing about Daniel Stern, the former NBA commissioner, and orgies. You think I can make this up? You think there's any part of me that in my normal course of being would say Daniel Stern and orgy in the same sentence, and I wasn't talking about the guy from Home Alone? Which I also would not do. It's hard to make a joke about these things. One should not do that. I want to know who abused children. I want them in jail. That's what we should all know. That's what we should all want. People want it to be political. Well, you're talking about this because you don't want to talk about the other thing. Wait, I thought I was talking about the other thing because I didn't want to talk about this. I will go through more of it. I'll have more of it this week. The subject is not going away. Release more of the files. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Hold on. Jeanette wants me to shut up. Why, Jeanette? What did I say that requires me shutting up? Hold on. I want to see if Jeanette answers. What? Go ahead and explain yourself. Maybe you weren't talking to me, right? Maybe I see it wrong. Brother, for the same argument, why the blank hasn't Trump released them? They just released millions. He is complaining about distraction, then bringing up distractions. Dude, no one knows what you're saying. We get it. You hate Trump, but it's making you just dumb. And I don't have time for dumb. I need you to be smarter. You want to be a part of this show? You want to be a commenter on this show? You have to be smarter. If you want to be dumb, there's a lot of crap out there. You can go watch it. I don't give a damn, kitten. You're not allowed to be stupid on my time. Go be stupid on someone else's time. Take a moment, take a breath, write a comment that makes sense, and then share it, and we can discuss it. Yes, we need the truth. We need the truth. I need people who were involved in abusing children to go to jail. I don't know why that's... Anyway, it was it goes back to this whole thing with Billie Eilish and F ICE and stolen land. She actually thinks she's a good person, and I want her to know she's not a good person. She's not. What she just did there at the Grammys is disgusting stuff. Same thing is true with Trevor Noah, but he knows he's not a good person, so it doesn't have to be explained to him. She thinks because she makes music with her brother that somehow she's good, and everyone tells her how great she is, and she believes it. You're not. You're really terrible. Other people should live with the violence on the streets. And one other thing to get to. All these people who have been complaining for the last years about, oh, look what's happening in Gaza. Look how terrible the Israelis are acting. The Israelis were fine, by the way. The Iranian people are searching to have a better life, and not a single person at the Grammys brought it up. They don't care what happens. Good people? Hell no. No. Billie Eilish could watch people die, and I don't think she'd care. At least that's my take from her comments. Which it's gross. All right, that might be clean. I don't know. I don't think these wipes are good. I need a good lens wipe, but I think what's best is the spray and then a cloth. That seems to be better. I just don't like to spray anything while I'm doing the show. Anyway, let's get back to it. We're back to the show in 1 minute. 40 seconds, even better. Even better. Huh. Okay. Excellent. Like, what's going on here? Issue that is now fixed. Apologize for that. You have the USS Abraham Lincoln moving in. You have these other warships that are moving in. And there's a question as to whether or not there's a level of action that can take place. And a question, of course, being, what is that action? The Iranian people are still fighting. They're still trying to engage their freedom. They have dealt with killings. Over 40,000 was the last number. That was the last number. And then you have Trump saying that if Iran doesn't agree to a nuclear deal, we'll find out whether a U.S. attack would spark a regional war. So, what nuclear deal is President Trump referring to here? This is from just today, saying that if Iran does not make a deal regarding its nuclear program, that we'll find out about an attack. It was the Ayatollah on Sunday saying that any U.S. attack would spark a regional war. With whom? With whom in the region will this regional war be? Who is it that's going to attack the U.S.? Or basically, the way I should say that we're having a conversation about regional war. So Iran's saying if the U.S. does X, then Iran is attacking Israel. Is that what they mean by regional war? Does he expect somebody else to get involved in a regional war? Does he expect the Jordanians to fight on his side? The Syrians? None of that's going to happen. No one who has signed the Abraham Accords or is a beneficiary of the Abraham Accords is going to engage in attack. So what is he actually referring to? I agree that it is 100% bluster. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, does Iran still have, as they have utilized a lot of mobile carriers for their missiles? Can they still launch missiles at Israel or other nations? Absolutely. Does Iran have still terrorists on the payroll that they can put into operation, cells that they can activate? I would argue absolutely. But everything here regarding the Ayatollah is bluster. The question that I'm asking is, what possible deal is made regarding their nuclear capabilities? There is no deal that can be made or should be made that allows the Ayatollah to remain or that part or those hardliners to remain. We've discussed before that one thing you have to do is you have to crack the IRGC, that Revolutionary Guard Corps. You have to crack them because they're the ones engaged in the crackdown of the people. Even if the Ayatollah were to engage himself some level of exile to Moscow or wherever else, and there was reports over the weekend that he had gone to Moscow, it doesn't seem to necessarily be the case. I think he's still right where he's at. You have to crack the IRGC. You have to take away their money. You have to take away their power in order for the people to be able to complete the job and actually be free people living their own lives and choosing their own government. I may not agree with that government, but at least it'll be theirs, as opposed to this one, which has been forced upon them. But I'm not interested in making a deal regarding their nuclear capabilities that keeps the Ayatollah and the mullahs in power. I don't want that for the people of Iran. I'm in favor of supporting the people as they rise up against the Ayatollah and the mullahs until they simply run for their lives. And then let the people have Iran. Let's call it Persia and make Persia great again. Or make Iran Persia again, however you want to describe it. I don't want anything that keeps the Ayatollah there. Continue to watch it. Meanwhile, are Republicans ready to fight? Keep it here. Welcome back. Man, I don't know. I'm gone for just a couple of days and everything goes to pot. No, I think that's all working now. Excellent, excellent. Good to be with you. Tony Katz today. Not smoking a cigar. I came back from Florida with a cold, which sucks. So the ears are clogged. That does not happen often. Happened on the plane. The ears are clogged, and so I don't. Wow, hold on a second. There's a comment that's gonna go. Have a nice day, weirdos. A lot of weird people. So yes, the ears are a little clogged. So I mean, I can still hear you guys. I can hear Landon and everything else, but just a little. I don't know. It's like I don't know if it's sinus. I don't know what it is. Not sure. So we will have some more, but I do want to get to what's going on in Texas with this loss of a state race and a problem that I think that it puts forward. There we go. There's that. Excellent. 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 And excellent. Are you now producer Lando? Who in the world has producer Landon? I do not have long COVID. What is wrong with everybody? It's a cold. Not everything is the end of times. Good Lord. Tony Katz today. I was in Florida for a conference. I came back with a cold because it was 0 degrees. The first 2 days were really nice. The sun came out. There was beach stuff and all the jazz. And then Saturday came and the winds were blowing and it was cold. And I think that's what gave me the cold. And so the chat room says that I have long COVID. Would you guys just stop it? This is not, long COVID is real. Not everything is, you know what? I think you're just messing with me and I don't appreciate it one bit. I don't appreciate that Republicans aren't interested in winning. This story is about a state race in Texas. Now, Texas is going to be having a whole bunch of interesting races, including a Senate race where the ladies of The View don't care which Democrat wins as long as the Democrat wins.
So, you guys, you and Jasmine, you're in it. Yeah. And I think regardless of who wins this particular race, Texas will be better for it.
Yeah.
With the two of them.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
So.
You're telling me that if a white man beats a black woman, you're not going to be screaming racism and sexism, Whoopi? I, for one, am shocked and devastated to learn such a thing. But the story is the story of a Texas Senate seat that has flipped. This is a state Senate special election, which happened on Saturday. Now, I do not know who allowed at all a special election on a Saturday. I don't know why you would do such a thing. But it is very clear that Republicans had no interest in showing up. Now, all politics are local, and it could have to do with what people thought of the Republican challenger. This was a vacant seat in Senate District 9. Could have a lot to do with it. But it's the first time a Republican has lost the seat since 1992, which is a very, very, very long time. Republicans didn't fight for the seat. Republicans didn't push the seat. And it wasn't just a victory. It was an overperform in a district where Trump won by 17 points in 2024. You had Republicans get involved in the race, including Governor Greg Abbott. This Democrat overperformed by 20 points. Democrats, of course, are crowing and saying this is just a repudiation of everything Republican, and we're going to destroy them in the midterms and all the rest. Now, I have a theory about the midterms and certainly about winning, and I see an absolute map to doing so. This was going to be part of the event I was doing in January. Trump 1 year later. The storms we had to delay, we postponed to February 28th. So it's Trump 1 year and 1 month later. You can get your tickets right now, tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. The bourbon, the food, the laughs, the music. It's going to be incredible. Put on your red tie. Join me. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Trump 1 year and 1 month later. It's going to be a spectacular, spectacular night downtown Indianapolis, February 28th. I hope to see you there. But what it does show is that no winning can happen if Republicans don't take every race seriously. When once discussing some local races where I live, the then head of the Republican Party told me that you can't run every race, to which I said, you absolutely can. And they were like, you can't spend money like that. And I said, you're not qualified. I've said that subsequently as well. If you are the head of a party and you're not running in every race to win that race, regardless of whether you've got all the money or no money, you haven't looked for candidates, searched for candidates, vetted candidates, endorsed candidates, trained candidates, and put candidates up in every single election, you can't win. You know who does that? Democrats. And they see in places they shouldn't success. Now, as a group of people who are less believers in individuality, they're better at the organizing. So Republicans just have to practice it more. I thought we were there. I thought we figured it out. You think that the ground cover that's going to be provided by Trump's air support will be enough? Man, I really mixed my metaphors there, didn't I? Trump can't save all of you. I'm talking about you candidates. You're going to have to actually run, and state directors and county directors are going to actually have to run and knock on doors and put out the yard sign and get aggressive. Now, just one race and just one special election does not mean that everything else is bound for failure. But Republicans should be aware that they lost the mayor's race in Miami too. And you lost not only the the governor's race in Virginia, you lost the AG race to a guy who said he wanted to kill the Republican leader of the House of Virginia and that guy's kids. You lost. You better have some focus. And this story is indeed about focus. Because when you take a look at the polling, for example, a story out of the New York Post regarding some Fox polling, Democrats top Republicans on the generic congressional ballot by 6 points, 52-46. That's a very large margin. A generic ballot means it doesn't matter who it is. When it matters who it is, personalities come into play and it can change those numbers. But it is yet another example of where Republicans are absolutely falling behind. And they should feel like they're falling behind. Then there's the idea of the favorable, unfavorable. The favorable, unfavorables tell a unique story. Where if you take a look at the Republican Party, the favorable is 40%, the unfavorable is 53%. This according to Real Clear Polling. But if I look at the Democratic Party, the favorable is 35% and the unfavorable is 56%. It is not that people are enjoying the Democratic Party and saying, you know what, this is all just super great. Not in the slightest. It is saying that even if people view their party unfavorably, and more Democrats view their party unfavorably than Republicans view their party unfavorably, or view Republicans at all unfavorably, in the head-to-head matchups, Republicans are losing because all politics are local and you have to go run every race. So maybe this is that kind of psychology moment where Republicans realize that they're going to get destroyed in a midterm election. I'm hoping that's the case. I am hoping that is indeed the case. There will be some people who will believe that, well, Tony, those are just specific races and local races. A midterm has a more national story, and we're winning on the border, and we're winning in terms of law enforcement. So are we winning in terms of ICE? I argue we should. And the people screaming that ICE should stop, no, ICE should triple down. And the people out there engaged in violence against ICE agents should all be arrested. And people like Billie Eilish should have to learn how wrong she is. I'm going to get to the Grammys, don't worry. And all of those absolute foolhardy lemmings at the Grammys applauding Don Lemon, they have to lose. They have to lose. And I think Americans do know this. And I think if Republicans do not continue to engage in the removal of illegal immigrants, even if it's a change of tactics, which tactics change all the time, go right ahead. If you stop, that's a definite loss. If you somehow acquiesce to these violent people engaged in the attacks in Minneapolis and other places, you're going to lose. You're going to lose huge. People want those who are willing to fight. And I've seen a lot of people say, man, what's happening in Minneapolis is really destroying Republicans' chances. No, how they handle it could very well destroy their chances. But are Republicans getting the message that if they're not willing to fight, they're just going to get destroyed? Do they understand that they can't rely on Trump? You can't do it. You can't rely on the coattails. I think Trump would argue that he did not endorse in that race, and see what happened. I don't know. Can't tell you why he did or why he didn't. What I can tell you is, it is obvious to me that Republicans don't seem to be prepared, ready to fight and win the way they need to. That stinks. That stinks. Can it be turned around? Absolutely, it can be turned around. You guys certainly have some top-lining messaging that can occur. Are we seeing a lower inflation future? Well, maybe you've got Kevin Warsh, who may be taking over the Fed for Jerome Powell, and his plan would involve buying down the balance sheet, which would help reduce inflation. Maybe that's why we saw gold and silver prices drop over the weekend so dramatically. They're still very high, but maybe with a new Fed chair, Warsh is the last name, W-A-R-S-H, that's the nominee, you will have lower inflation. That will help. Prices of gas coming down as they have, continue to come down. Prices of beef coming down, that will help. You can afford to take your family out to dinner. You feel you've got some extra cash in your pocket. Those are the things that are going to matter. Staying tough on law enforcement and staying tough on those who think they can utilize violence to protect illegal immigrants over American citizens, that's going to help. The border protection has helped. Americans voted for this. Don't buy in to the mainstream media spin. Don't buy into the trolls out there on social media. Reality shows us that this is what America voted for. It's what they wanted, and they like what they see on the border. I don't think the answer is nope, 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 nope. Don't do anything. Dismantle ICE. That is not what people are saying. That's what the left is saying, which is how you have to have a conversation that the left favors the illegal immigrant over the citizen, and they favor damage and destruction over peace and security. I don't know if the Republicans are smart enough to actually message that. What I do know is that there is a path, and I'll be explaining it February 28th, tickets.tonykatz.com. They better take these losses seriously because it matters. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz Today. All right, welcome back. Sorry, Tony Katz Today. Hold on. According, first of all, hey, Ann, I don't know who this is. According to this person, they went to high school with me. Now, this would be a moment of full disclosure of, I don't think I was well formed in high school. People look back at high school, and it was the time of their life and everything else. I don't know if I would say that about my high school years. But I don't know who this is. I don't know who it is. They say they went to high school with me, so let's find out. Let's find out if they give any defining characteristics that could prove this true. And it can't just be where I went to high school. That's already out there in the world. So, did you know that there are high schools that have like a Hall of Fame? I don't think my high school has one. I'm not in it. That's not the point. There are high schools that have like a Hall of Fame. And I'm always like, is that very cool or is that very awkward? Like, is that weird, producer Landon? Right. So you're in the cool category. That would be groovy. All right, maybe it is. So I want to hear from wait, where are they? Where'd they go? From a rough probe who says they went to high school with me. Now I want to hear who they are. Let's see if I remember. That's another thing about me. So this is true. If you remember things from high school, I'm very impressed by that. I don't. People remember things, and I was in a youth group, and that was very big in my life. back then, and people remember things. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't remember any of it. I'm not a forgetful guy. It's just their memory for things is like way different than mine. And I don't have a memory for all those things. So let's see what Rough Pro brings up, and let's hope I remember at least some of it so we can prove I just remember my failures. First of all, isn't that torturous? It is. It absolutely is. I don't just remember my failures, although I do remember some of my failures. I do. I don't remember everything. You remember prom being overrated, producer Landon? Yeah. So, prom a little bit overrated. I'm not trying to engage a humble brag. That's my point. Oh, Tony Katz today. So someone in the chat rooms were live streaming said they went to high school with me. And I said, okay, I want proof of this, but I want it known I don't remember everything. And someone's like, oh, that's you just being obnoxious, a humble brag. They remember you, but you don't remember them. I didn't say I wouldn't remember them. I'm saying there are things that happen that friends of mine have told me about. I'm like, I don't remember that happening. That's the point. There's some people are better at the memory than I am. But nope. Immediately to, you're just terrible. Oh, it's just awful. I thought this was just only in the world of social media. Is this everywhere now? Is this everything everywhere all the time, where no matter what you say, everybody is ripping it apart and tearing it apart, and oh, you mean this, and oh, you mean that, and oh, you're attacking this, and oh, you're just saying, good Lord. People are so absolutely angry, so incredibly vicious. Good Lord. Meanwhile, I was discussing ICE, and I will have some more about it. I wasn't kidding when I said ICE should not stop. The worst thing in the world that Trump could do is not continue the arrests. The worst thing in the world Republicans could do is stop the arrests. They should never, ever give up the ship on that. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is scheduled to speak today. Some new mental health initiatives, both he and Dr. Oz making those announcements. I am going to bring those to you. I do want to hear. I know President Trump was speaking today. I'll get to some of that commentary as well. And then the Grammys. These aren't good people. And you don't have to look to them as there's some kind of moral arbiter of anything. And that includes Billie Eilish. That includes all of them who really don't care about the citizen. They don't care about the citizen at all. They care about some weird, twisted ideology and figure they've got enough money that they'll be spared. This un-American zealotry from our celebrity class has got to end. I'll have that story coming up. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Oh, so this is a true story, Kathleen. Kathleen writes, I sat next to people in my graduation that I never saw before. When we did graduation, and so I grew up in New Jersey, and we did our graduation at a place called the Garden State Arts Center, which is now the PNC Art Center. Maybe it's changed names since then. A very, very, very cool spot. You saw concerts there and everything else. And that's where we had graduation. And so half the class, it was separated by alphabet. So I think it was A through L and M through Z. And so we're on one side and the M through Z's are on the other side. And then you would meet with a classmate and you'd walk down and then grab your seat, right? So you'd come from the wings, you'd meet up and then you'd walk down and then you'd go find your seat. And I was matched up with a girl who I knew about, and she knew who I was for 4 years. We had never actually met or said hello or said a word to each other until that moment. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Boom. It was, and the first time, because we actually did a run through, he did a practice of it like a couple days before, and because you knew which bus to get on and everything else. And I'm like, oh, hey. She's like, hey. And that was it. That was absolutely it. And then we did that again for actual graduation, and I have not spoken to her since. I hope she's well, but that's it. So I'm totally with you there. I am absolutely with you there. So here's the story. The radio show is in commercial break, so we will be in commercial break. Right? So smoke them if you got them. Hang loose, and we will be back in a few. Keep it here, guys. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Let me bring this right here because they are now speaking.
To treat people that never supports them in
This
terms
is
of
gonna
their
be with,
longer-term recovery.
Secretary
And even
Kennedy
though this is a
and,
chronic
Dr.
illness,
Oz
we
talking
often
about
treat it
mental health.
as an acute
I want
episodic
to hear what they have
illness
to
as
say.
opposed to the chronic illness that it is.
And
What
it's
was really
really,
impressive
I
to
think,
me in that documentary and the words
a,
the
a larger
secretaries had
conversation
since
about
then
how this
is the
HHS is going
framing
after
that
all the
he's
things.
putting around
You know,
this
some of the
issue.
processes I don't
Because he
like,
and I both understand
how
what
they
it is
dealt
to
with drug
be in
prices and
recovery. And we
pressure
know
from the government.
that is a
Not my want, as opposed
biopsychosocial
to or changing regulatory schemes that make things
what we've
easier. We still haven't solved
neglected in our
Obamacare, which has
treatment
to be ripped out
paradigm
by
in
the
this
root in
country
order for things to get better.
is the
But there are moves
psychosocial
made that are
principle, the
successes.
social.
And Maha, Make
We've
America Healthy Again,
done a
is one of the
great
ways that
job
I
in the
believe
last month or
Republicans
so
can win the
on
midterm.
what to prescribe. Thank
But
you
now
for
I'm very
that.
curious as to what their
Not only
conversation is
great
going to be here.
treatments,
Now, I do
but
not
to have
know
ones that are
this
coming
guy right
forward
here,
that show great promise.
who
But as you
is
know, it's so fragmented. All the
a former rep, as you can see there, from Rhode Island, Democrat. And we're having a little bit of tech issue with that right there. Let me see if I can just redo that and get that going.
How do I love Skyline Chili?
Oh,
Let me
take a nap.
count the ways.
Skyline Chili.
Skyline
Nothing says healthcare like Skyline Chili.
There's the four-way.
Skyline.
I do.
Mmm.
I
When you
say
want to
we
see if your plumbing works,
I love
Skyline Chili.
Skyline always.
more, we never connect all the
There it
different
is.
government agencies
I'll bring this up.
that touch someone with these illnesses. We relegate them to one system, and that's the healthcare system. And we've forgotten that these people work and operate within all the housing and tragically, and too often the case in the criminal justice system and the human services system and so forth. And what we've never done as a country is think about the true cost of these illnesses across the government. We only look at the cost to the medical spend alone. And until we take a broader aperture of this, we're never going to wrap our arms around all the needs that someone has, such that we can provide them the support that's going to give them the best chance at long-term recovery. Now, in this audience, I see many friends who are there for Amy and I. Furthermore, let me acknowledge my wife, Amy Kennedy, is over here in the back. Amy and I co-founded the Kennedy Forum shortly after I left Congress, and the main goal of the Kennedy Forum was to really push for the full enforcement of the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act, and to end the double standard in our healthcare system that treated the body but neglected the mind, that treated the physical but neglected the mental. It's hard to believe that that has been the case throughout our history. And frankly, we still need to fight that battle. But as you know, we at the Kennedy Forum have also taken on the Alignment for Progress. And in the Alignment for Progress, we're not only advocating for more access, meaning payers reimburse for care, but we're also advocating for outcomes. God forbid we would ever want to pay for something that actually has better outcomes. And so the idea is the alignment. We have to align the reimbursement to pay for the treatments that actually show the greatest results.
So that is former Representative Patrick Kennedy, Democrat, Rhode Island, engaged in a conversation that you could actually go along with. If we want to talk about healthcare, we're going to talk about specifically mental health. Why don't we do the things that work? If we can get a benefit, if we can see a reality that if we do X, we get the outcome of Y, why wouldn't we be invested in those exact things? Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Find everything over at TonyKatz.com. So, Secretary of Health and Human Services, you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you've got Dr. Oz, who runs Medicare, Medicaid. They're going to be speaking about mental health and mental health outcomes and where we need to be putting our time and attention. Did I say hello, Tony Katz? Tony Katz today. That's me. That's the name of the show. I appreciate you being here. I have argued on more than one occasion that MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, is an absolute winner. It has proven massively successful with mothers, massively successful with families. It has shown itself to be incredibly, incredibly successful. That this idea of we're going to get the food dyes out, we're going to get the food additives out, we're going to honestly address this ridiculous food pyramid and say, eat real food. Eat nutrient-rich, nutrient-dense foods. Steak is good. And let's stop being angry with saturated fats, for the love of the Lord. Fantastic. These are winners. And as much as I have concerns about Robert F. Kennedy's politics, which I still do, I won't deny things that are successful. It'd be a radical thing to do. Rather, I want to know how we can build upon these things. I believe Republicans need to be running on these things and continuing them down the road. That Democrats are okay with the same old, that destroy your children, that lead them to worse health outcomes, that lead them to worse lives, lives of pain and misery and mental misery. Maybe we can look at this stuff differently. And so now they're going to have a conversation about mental health and addiction. Certainly, there are a lot of people out there who deal with the addiction issue. I can tell you that I never had to. Depression, being suicidal, I went through that in my 20s. Not fun, but you can come out the other side. Life does get better. I am here to say the words. Life does get better. Depression is real. Dealing with it was awful. I spent a fair amount of my 20s suicidal, miserable. I was discussing with somebody over the weekend that there are months. I'd have to go back and actually stare at a calendar to figure out the year. But there are months in my 20s where I can't tell you what I did every day. No one remembers what they did every day. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. What was I doing? How was I spending my time? I have no idea. I have zero levels of recollection. Not a way you want to live. This is better by far and in many, many ways. But I never once had to deal with an addiction, and I never had that in a family setting. Unbelievably difficult stuff. Not only in the dealing with addiction and how you help people to find a place for that, but also if you are a family in and around that, how do you deal with that? It's funny. Maybe I missed it, but I feel that we see that often with people who deal with those with Parkinson's or those with cancer, about how the surrounding family works with that and deals with that. But what about family and all the other things? Certainly, there's some conversations about family and addiction. So this is what they're talking about, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now taken to the stage. Let's hear what he has to say as he's being asked questions by the founder and president of something called Healthsperian. His name is Tom, I think it's Katsoumpis, and we'll hear the question.
Throughout the country, all parts of families, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers. It really is so extraordinarily important. And I know how important it is to you, and so we're so grateful for you to spend the time with us today, but also I think to hear from you about why it's important and sort of where we're going with the exciting new announcements that you made just recently around the executive order and the focus that you're taking to address these issues. Talk to us about that.
I mean, it's a raw financial issue. It can be reduced to a raw financial issue. It costs about $92 billion a year in direct costs.
Sure.
About $890 billion a year in indirect costs and lost productivity and cost to our healthcare system, and just collateral damage. Yes. And all the collateral illnesses. One of the things Patrick and I were talking about backstage is the intensity of use by drug addicts and alcoholics of the healthcare system that They're in the emergency room all the time. They're also imposing costs on our justice system. They're imposing costs on our foster care system. They overutilize every aspect of the government, and you get them into treatment and all that stops. And they stop. Patrick was telling me that he went to 17 rehabs, but he was in the emergency room once a week with, everything from kidney infections, contusions on his face from falling. And that in 15 years that he's been sober, he's never been to an emergency room. And, I see that. We all know that that's what happens to addicts. They're negative producers, and they're just, like I said, in economic terms, they're drags on the whole system. But also, just for the morale of our country, what we're facing now in this country is we have the worst health outcomes in the history of the world.
Yes.
We have the highest chronic disease burden of any country in the world. We pay the highest cost, 2 to 3 times what Europeans pay for healthcare. And we've lost 6 years to Europe in terms of our lifespan over the past 2 decades. We've got the highest infant mortality rate in the developed world, the highest maternal mortality rate in the developed world. And then our, cancer rates, we're having an epidemic of colorectal cancer now among children.
Now, we'll get into that, but I do say when we talk about people and addictions and issues and health issues, I would rather we focused on what keeps people alive and healthy as opposed to, will these outcomes mean better productivity for the nation? I'm not interested in keeping people alive because they're going to be good workers. I'm interested in people being alive because we want people to be alive and what creates a better life. And the other things come from that. And I always think that needs just a little bit of focus.
To fill that lonely hole inside of them. And so, you're seeing record numbers of addictions now. The highest cause of death, overdose, is in children in Americans under 45 years old. And we can't fix that by treating the addiction alone. We have to treat the causes of it. We have to work on prevention. We have to intervene early, but we have to figure out ways to reconnect, particularly our children, with community. Addiction is about isolation. It's a disease of isolation. Addicts end up alone. They burn their relationships. They lose their jobs. They end up in rooms or jails or institutions or dead. And the ultimate solution to that is reconnecting people to community. And we have to look at how do we do that. Strategy is about how do we do that. And Patrick talked about outcome directed strategies, and that's what we need to focus on. The fragmentation is occurring in the response too. The response is, there's no coordination between all of the needs and the institutions that could help with this problem: housing and law enforcement and healthcare and mental health care. There's no coordination, and it's a fee-based service system. So people are just like the medical system. People have an economic incentive to make sure you don't get well, and that's not saying people who work in these, as caregivers don't want you to be well. Of course they do. But the system itself is designed to keep you sick every time.
If the system itself, Secretary Kennedy, is designed to keep you sick, then there are people in that system all over the place who feel better off if you're sick, which is why we need to do things that make us well, regardless of what makes them happy. And this is the kind of stuff that I think is a winning conversation in America, really for everybody, but politically for Republicans. Just think that it is. This is a winner. We'll have more of this. We're going to hear more of what Bobby Kennedy has to say. The Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz Today. All right, let's get back to him.
And ultimately, what we have to do at HHS over the next 3 years is do everything we can to switch the model at CMMI and CMS and HRSA and SAMHSA to coordinate response so that somebody is in charge of that addict. Somebody is accountable as he moves through the system. And to move to outcome-based services where people have an incentive to make sure you don't relapse, that there's a strong economic incentive. You get paid one price for treating that individual, then you follow that individual for 3 years, and you're responsible for all the costs. That will bring down the cost because then people will look. We have lots of evidence-based treatments. We know what works. We're not doing it well because nobody has an incentive to do that, and so there's no accountability.
And we were talking earlier as well, Secretary, about the disconnect between the sort of mental health and the physical health. And as you've just described, the opportunity to make sure that all of that is incorporated in as people are cared for. So it's not just separated, but how does the mental health affect the physical health? And so that there's actually an integration of services.
Yeah, I mean, we need to integrate services. And that's, the Great American Recovery Act is an effort to begin that
Yes.
Transition.
Yes.
The Streets program, for example, well, it's based partially on the program that was modeled in the Netherlands. We go out, we bring together law enforcement, we bring together mental health, we bring together counselors, we bring together housing, and we intervene early. We try to get to that addict as soon as, or people with mental health problems as soon as possible. We find them on the street. We move them from crisis to detox, to treatment, to housing, to employment, and ultimately to reconnecting to communities and to self-sufficiency.
Well, as you can imagine, everyone here is very excited about the Great American Recovery Initiative. And so hearing more about it, understanding how you're taking this on.
By the way, take a look at the comments.
Is really extraordinarily.
Take a look at the comments in the chat room. They don't want to listen to what he says. They only want to attack.
You had talked about the Streets program.
That's why I'm saying that there's a win here. These people only want to attack. They want to destroy anything in their path. They can't even say, hey, helping with mental health outcomes is a good idea. That's where I think the win is. These people look the fool and then power the parents and the moms who want better for their kids.
Where we will coordinate the government. The insurance companies don't have any. The insurance companies have your life with them is very short-lived. You move from one to the other. They're looking at they're looking at the cost over 1 year. And we need to extend that periphery, the periphery of that horizon, so somebody is looking over the cost over 3 years and the entire cost. Mm-hmm. Right now, the fiduciary for addicts is CMS. CMS only is looking at the cost savings to the healthcare system. That's all they're concerned about. And nobody's looking at the broader cost savings. For example, law enforcement. We're bringing all of these agencies together. We're going to do a study that looks at the entire cost of the addict over the lifetime of the addiction, so that we can demonstrate savings over time to justify the cost of this program. The Streets program, as I said, it's a $100 million program. It builds on a $45 million program that we gave this year for sober housing. And I'm working with Scott Turner at HUD to revolutionize sober housing. I'm a really strong believer in sober housing. I think it's, we need to not just treat the addict and then put him back into the environment that was making him sick or contributing, let me put it this way, contributing to his sick illness. We need to give him some stability or her some stability. And from there, they can get employment, they can develop relationships, they can develop independence, and then they can move on. But you need to—
That is the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, who is speaking now about mental health and addiction. discussing new plans for dealing with these things and taking a look specifically at where we can create better outcomes as opposed to better management. Tony Katz today. This is all part of, this is all happening right now as we speak, and is all part of where HHS has kind of moved into, which is not just pushing the same old, but rather taking a look at issues, taking a look at core competencies, taking a look at real data, not just what others want to believe is data, but the true data, and saying, how do we go about fixing these things and creating better outcomes, which is why I think he has been so successful and why I think that MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, will be so successful for the midterms. But let's take it back as they're talking about addiction and the American populace.
Wise people and the prophets and through nature, nowhere with such texture and grace and joy as through other human beings. And when we cut off our relationships with other human beings, we lose that access to the divine. And that is a healing power. We are in a spiritual malaise in this country. And we need to give people access to all different ways of reconnecting with something that is higher than themselves. And, you know, I'm reminded of Bill Wilson, who was the founder of the 12-Step movement, had he was in a program before he launched AA, which was called the Oxford Group. And the Oxford Group had 8 steps that are from which the 12 steps of AA are taken. And those 8 steps were intended to induce a spiritual awakening. And Bill Wilson had that spiritual awakening, and his compulsion to drink, which he'd been fighting for 40 years, suddenly just went away, just miraculously. And he could not imagine that he would ever take a drink again. And then during that 6-month period when he was sober, he put together a deal to buy the primary vendors for the Goodyear and Firestone tire companies. And it would have the deal was going to make him a millionaire and set him up for life. This was the height of the Great Depression, 1932. And he went out to Akron to ink the deal. And somebody else had gone in and stolen the deal from him. And he had put all of his finances in that deal, and he was crushed. He was standing in the lobby of the Mayflower Hotel in Akron, and all of a sudden, all of that compulsion to drink came back to him full force. And he was 20 feet away from the lounge, and he could hear the ice clinking in the glasses, and he could hear the laughter of the patrons, and it was screaming at him to come in and get a drink. And on his way to the lounge, he had the central revelation of the 12-step programs, which is he realized the only way that he was going to stay sober is if he helped another alcoholic. And he went, instead of going into the lounge, he went into a phone booth and he got the yellow pages and he looked up preachers, the Salvation Army, sanitariums and hospitals looking for a hopeless alcoholic that he could talk to.
That's a crazy story.
And he eventually found Bob Smith, Dr. Bob Smith, who had tried everything to quit drinking. And he was able to persuade Bob Smith to meet with him. And when Bob Smith came into the meeting, he said, "You got 15 minutes," because he heard it all. He never heard it from another alcoholic. And they ended up talking all night. And that was the first 12-step meeting. And they both decided the next day the only way they're going to stay sober is to find another alcoholic. So they went to the hospital and they found a guy who was literally handcuffed to a bed. And he was the third member. And it was that this realization that the only way that the spiritual awakening works, but it's just a daily reprieve. And if it's not renewed every day through service to other people, service to other alcoholics, that you'll lose it.
Now, not having ever gone through anything like that, is that true? Is that true? Because he's having a conversation about how you create purpose. Purpose is everything. the purpose-driven life is the only way one actually has a life. That's it. If you don't have purpose, you don't have anything. Every day you wake up, what is your plan? What are you trying to get accomplished? How are you trying to accomplish it? Who are you trying to connect with? What is that? Who are you trying to provide for? What are you trying to make impact on? Purpose-driven life. I mean, that's what it's talking about, that every day, that the day should have a purpose. The day doesn't have a purpose, you might as well just drink the day away or snort the day away and let it all fall away. Let it all just fall right away. He's having this serious conversation, this really thoughtful, introspective commentary. And yet you go to online chats, and what are they talking about? He sounds funny. They can't stop themselves. You want to talk about their addiction. Addicted to the hate, addicted to the vitriol, addicted to the anger, addicted to the attacks, wanting to rip people apart, wanting to ridicule people, as opposed to engaging. They have no interest. You want to talk about the addiction of social media, even on the live streams. They don't want to engage in commentary. They don't want to share ideas. How can we destroy? What's the difference between what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is talking about and these people? And the answer is there's none. They're addicted to the damage. They get joy from the degradation. It's not a life. Count me out. I want to hear more from him. I do want to talk about the Grammys, so I'll try and get to both. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Let's take it back. See what else he's got to say.
Jay Bhattacharya and all the people who work there are committed to that model.
Yes, well, and the outcomes then will be quite different than they are today, where you're just paying for a service.
Yeah, and that's just a death spiral for us.
A death spiral, yeah.
We have to figure out ways to reconnect our children to, a national purpose and to communities and to a sense of purpose in their lives.
Yes.
And create bridges to bring people together again across all these atomized landscapes.
Right. One of the challenges I think that we all face as well as the workforce, the opportunity to provide these services depends on a robust workforce. What are things we can do to support developing a better, a more comprehensive workforce? Because right now we have a lot of shortages and problems that really prevent us from doing certain things.
You mean in caregiver
Yes.
for addiction specifically?
Yes.
That's part of the funding that we're putting in, and we're putting in hundreds of billions of dollars.
Right.
And a lot of it, about about 500 billion will go to the states in block grants, and that is a lot of that is workforce retention,
Yes.
building a workforce. Oh, it's that's one of the things that we've got to make an enormous investment in.
Yes. And I know we've talked about this before, but I know personal stories are so important with respect to these issues because people relate. And I know your personal journey has been so extraordinarily important. Could you talk a little bit more about how that's affected where you're thinking and sort of what direction we're going in as a result of what you've experienced personally? Because I know that has really shaped your approach and your values.
Yeah, I was a heroin addict for 14 years, beginning in my early teens.
Yeah.
And I've been 43 years in recovery. And these, 12-step programs saved my life. It provides all the gravities around which all of my life is oriented. My family, my friendships, the work that I do. I go to meetings every day I don't have time to go to meetings. I've got 75,000 employees, and I've got a big job, and a lot of people relying on me, and I really don't have time to do it, but I go anyway, no matter what. And when I first came into the program in September of 1983, my first meeting, I asked the guy, how long do you have to keep coming to these meetings? He said, just keep coming till you like it.
Till you like it?
Yeah, and I've been coming 43 years. I still don't like
That is funny.
meetings. There's always someplace I'd rather be. I'd rather stay in bed with my wife. I go to an early morning meeting. And but I go every day because when I go, the rest of my life works. And for me, it's like brushing my teeth. I don't look forward to brushing my teeth. I don't enjoy the sensation. But I do it every day because I don't want to live with the consequence of what happens when I don't do it. And I need to maintain that that spiritual center. Everything that I've done in my life, that I've done out of personal ambition or aspirations or an acquisitive impulse or materialism, has been wormwood and bile. And everything that I've done that is consequential or enduring has come from that spiritual center. And we're all hybrid beings. We're half spiritual and half biological. And a lot of times our biological being doesn't have the best judgment. And the challenge is, how do you walk with one foot in the spiritual world and one in the biological world?
That is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talking more about mental health, and admitted that he goes to a meeting, assuming he means an AA meeting, every single day. Every day. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Also, the lineup for the halftime show being put together by Turning Point: Kid Rock, Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett. Now, I go to producer Landon because he knows more about these things than I do. Outside of Kid Rock, do I know these other people? So this is a thing. Like, this is this a thing you're going to watch? All right. This is the All-American halftime show. It's either this or it's Bad Bunny, and you can choose for yourself. I still haven't figured out whether I'm watching the thing. I mean, my kid wants to watch it. I'm going to watch it. But Patriots, Seahawks, am I really that big of a Sam Darnold fan that I have to watch this thing? No. Would I like to see him take home a Super Bowl and just to prove everybody wrong and see how many more people they could fire at the Minnesota Vikings? Yes. That in and of itself would be all right and worthwhile. I would not mind seeing that in the slightest. The Grammys happened yesterday, and correct, you did not watch. I understand that you did not watch, and you understand why you didn't watch. Because they are not connected to you. They are not engaged with you. They're not addressing the situation on any level as you would. It is a continued lecture from these people. When Don Lemon was arrested for interrupting church services via intimidation, and if you saw my videos about this, good. I'm glad Don Lemon was arrested. Don't tell me he was a journalist. That is all ridiculous. He wasn't a journalist when he was proactively, purposefully, and knowingly disrupting church services, and as the indictment goes, he was proactive in keeping people from moving around. He was blocking people's way, blocking their path, preventing them from leaving. Then has the audacity to do this interview with the church pastor and says, I'm just exercising my First Amendment rights. Absolutely, he should have been arrested. He's a low guy. He is not a savior. He is not a hero. He is not valuable. He isn't. And then he shows up because remember, he got arrested in LA. He was there to cover the Grammys. And then he comes back and he makes this ridiculous speech. And he shows up, and there are people at the Grammys who give him a standing ovation. It would be one thing to disagree with Trump about policy, to disagree with Trump about how one should engage illegal immigration. I mean, certainly if you're not somebody who's even willing to call it illegal immigration, there you have no leg to stand on. But the idea that you're okay with walking into churches, walking into places of worship, disrupting the services and keeping people from, as we heard in one report, being able to see their kids. Let's see Don Lemon do that in a mosque. And let's see these Grammy people, this celebrity class of pseudo-intellectualism support it. They support illegal immigration. And then they engage that support with these pseudo-intellectual commentaries. Brings us to Billie Eilish. She's there with her, I think that's her brother, who writes the music with her. And I'm not opposed per se to her music, maybe songs I like, songs I don't. But this is absolute madness. Now, I think I've got this edited well, producer Landon, but finger on the dump button. Let's start here with Billie Eilish.
Thank you so much. I feel so honored every time I get to be in this room. And as grateful as I feel, I honestly don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land.
And at that moment, how am I supposed to take anything Billie Eilish says seriously? The lack of intellectual heft here. It's a dumb comment. What does that even mean? You're on stolen land. It's not the United States of America? Of course it is. No, we took this from Native Americans. And they took it from other Native Americans, and they took it from other Native Americans. It is a nonsense argument meant to denigrate the place that has allowed you to make millions. It is a hatred of place and space that is seen as some kind of valuable proposition where it's not, mainly because the idea of stolen land is nonsense. It's mythology. It is not an intellectual pursuit. And on this stolen land, Billie Eilish again returns to get a Grammy. And then I was on this stolen land where she attended an after party. It's on this stolen land where she lives, in her $6 million mansion on the beach, where she has armed guards to protect herself from you trying to steal her stolen land, or anything she has been able to make for herself on this stolen land, which is clearly ill-gotten. But she's not done being a pseudo-intellectual. You listen to all those women cheering about stolen land. They don't leave. They keep making the money here. They don't give it back. They don't say, I have a 5-bedroom, $3.2 million house, not as big as Billie Eilish's. Here you are. I shouldn't be allowed this. It was stolen. They don't do that. And they all went to the after party.
And yeah, it's just really hard to know what to say and what to do right now. And I feel really hopeful in this room. And I feel like we just need to keep fighting and speaking up and protesting, and our voices really do matter, and the people matter. And I say sorry.
She says F ICE. And these people, all protected by armed guards, cheer. These people who support illegal immigration, did you know that you couldn't even enter the room? You could not have gotten into the Grammys if they didn't have a picture ID. Yet, illegal immigrants should be allowed to stay. And blank ICE, that is Billie Eilish pushing for more people to engage in violence against immigration and customs enforcement and law enforcement. Doesn't Billie Eilish know she's a bad person? She's probably never heard that before. You're a bad person, Billie Eilish. You're not good. You're not decent. You're not educating people or helping people. You're engaged in an absolute bit of violence here and pushing for violence to take place against law enforcement. You're pushing for illegal immigration for lawbreakers? Do they all get to now live at your house? Because you're saying you should open up the house. Oh, no person's illegal. It's stolen land. We can't be going after these people. Open up your house and let them live there. What argument are you actually providing if you're not willing to do this? It is clear and it is obvious that your argument is foolhardy. Your argument is based on a childlike look at the world. Not only should you not be taken seriously, parents need to go to their children and say, she's ridiculous, right? She gets to look at the world behind her safety and security, while you don't have that safety and security. She is the elitist. She's the snob. You don't want to know what a limousine liberal is? There it is. Now, someone in the chat room said, you're yelling about a pop star. Actually, I am sharing a problem, which is she has fans. And this fan base gets ginned up by these kinds of statements. These kinds of statements that aren't just Billie Eilish's alone. They're of members of Congress who believe we should shut down the government until ICE is defunded. These are people who are desperate to defund the police. Why are we discussing it? Because look at the celebrity culture there and all the millions upon millions upon millions of people who follow them on Instagram and all sorts of social media where this kind of nonsense gets spewed. How can we not notice? If Billie Eilish disagrees with me politically and wants to vote for Kamala Harris over Trump or anybody else over Trump, she's more than entitled to do so. Absolutely has that right to do so. But when you take to the Grammys and instead of just saying thank you, it's we're on stolen land and blank ice. Yes, I'm bothered that this child fool has such an incredible base of people by which she can spew this message. But she's an adult engaged in childlike pablum, and we should say no to it. And she should stop thinking that somehow she is of some kind of deep feeling that she is moral and pious. She is neither one. You're not, Billie. It is not pious to say blank ice. It is not decent. It is not moral to tell people that they have to live amongst people who are here illegally, many, not all, engaged in a level of criminality, including coming into the country illegally, while you are protected by armed guards and gates. It's an obscene thing to do. Stolen land, and yet you make no effort to give it back? You should give up your home. You should live by your principles, but you don't. You simply say things that get applause from lemmings without minds and without convictions and without ever hearing a second point of view. That's why it gets discussed. As it should get discussed. That what Billie Eilish said was disgusting. That was a little Eminem takeoff right there. It was. She shouldn't be celebrated for it. And the people in that room, Ricky Gervais was right about all of them. They are bad people with a lot of sway over your kids. And you, as a parent, as a grandparent, an aunt and uncle, a friend, you need to be willing to, without anger, push back on it. Billie Eilish was shameful. And she is not somebody that anybody should look up to after that commentary. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Now, normally I would just take the break, but the comments are just too good. Oh, hold on. You are pretending to be righteous because you have white skin. And brown-skinned people are obviously criminals to you. That is your inherent racism speaking. No, Daniel, that's in your inherent bigotry. That is your inherent bigotry. I didn't say anything like that. You're saying that. I'm assuming that's because it's how you feel, which I would tell you to work through. Right? Every accusation is an admission. You write this. You've decided you've got me pegged. I think this is about you. Now, I would hope you're right, man. Children these days aren't swayed by music artists in the same way. I would love to know if there's something concrete that either you've observed or you've read that would give you that. That would be great if that's true. I only hold out hope that it is. So if you can share it, you can email me, Tony@TonyKatz.com, just whether it's anecdotally what you're thinking or if there's like some article that you've read that connects you to that. I would love to know, man. I would love to. I would appreciate that very, very much. Classic conservative trying to tell people to shut up. Did I get the laugh right? I didn't say that she couldn't speak. Didn't I actually say she could say whatever she wants? But this is gross. It's a commentary on what she spoke. I do commentary. You're angry that I'm talking about it. That's weird. That is absolutely weird. Oh, okay, same person. Undocumented immigrants here illegally should be given a route to citizenship. Don't we want them vetted quickly and their tax revenue? First, there's no such thing as an undocumented immigrant. They're here illegally. I don't engage the wordplay. But you do say here illegally, so I think you're just trying to cover all the bases. I'm understanding, I think, a little bit. A route to citizenship. People coming to the country legally should be given a route to citizenship. And we should want that. And we should ask ourselves, how do we make that better? But you ask anybody who's had to fight the fight to get citizenship, and they'll tell you they don't want anybody here illegally getting any opportunity to get legal citizenship. It is totally unfair. Totally unfair. And no, I don't necessarily want the tax dollars. I don't want it. Angry man yells at pop star. Well, I'm only doing that because I couldn't find your mom. There it is. There it is. Oh, any chance I get to throw in a mom joke, I do. I take it. But I do hold the federal officials to a higher standard. Absolutely, I do. 1,000% I do. I think this show has proven that. Time and time and time again. Hold on, there's somebody. It's just gotta. Somebody's like, can Ricky Gervais? You wrote Nikki, but you meant Ricky. Can Ricky Gervais host the Grammys? Oh, I don't think he'd be cut dead at the Grammys. Hold on. Why would anybody call me an abhorrent bigot? What did I just say that would lead you to that? Why? Could you disagree with me? Disagreeing with somebody doesn't make them a bigot. That's not true. That's just not true. Stop it. Haha, you are obsessed with celebrity drama as a graybeard. Do have a little bit of gray. Oh no, it looks hot. Your mom loves it. That's twice! That's twice. Okay, that one was cheap. I apologize. The other one was better because it was unexpected. That was just too easy. That's not. How soon, producer Landon? 25 seconds. Okay. Hold on. So did I miss anything? You want to protect billionaire felons while attacking people who have no money and no political power. Wasn't I just discussing Billie Eilish? Daniel, you want things to be true. I just need you to listen to the show, man. Right? You're going to be okay. Settle down. Donald Trump wants to sue the IRS for $10 billion. I see a flaw in this. Tony Katz today. Now, this is because the IRS release his tax returns. This happened. There's a guy who is right now dealing with 5 years in prison for releasing the tax returns. And I want to say for the record, I don't think 5 years is enough. It's not. 5 years is not enough. You leak someone's tax return, 100 years in jail or worse. That's that. But Trump is saying, now you've done this, it's a crime, $10 billion. I believe that Donald Trump was wronged. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump can't sue. Not when you're president of the United States. And the acting director, or the commissioner of the IRS, works for you. Because the acting commissioner is the Secretary of the Treasury, is Scott Bessent. So no. You can't. This is different than whether or not the IRS is wrong. The IRS is wrong. And there will come a moment where I believe you can sue. People are leaking tax returns. I mean, to me, this is the reason to get rid of the income tax. Oh, I would get rid of the income tax immediately. The federal income tax is obscene. 16th Amendment, gone. No good has come from the income tax. It's used as a cudgel against American citizens. And as we have seen, it's utilized for political purposes. Very, very sensitive data. I think we should say no. If states want to have an income tax, they're allowed to. Federal government, absolutely not. Not a chance. And I know I people look at me like I'm crazy. Well, how are we going to fund this? How are we going to fund that? Maybe we should fund less things. Maybe we should be Article 1, Section 8 people. Maybe we should get back to a whole series of taxes that can be utilized instead of an income tax, where the government has no right to be a silent partner in my labor. And then we'll fund things properly. Not everything. You want to still give, you could do private charity. I'm cool with that, though. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Man, a lot of anger in the chat. And let me tell you something. I delete people every day. Every single day. Because they're out of their minds. They've lost themselves. It's angry and it's bitter and it's vitriolic. So I apologize. I'm trying my best to keep them out of the chat. I'm not always successful, but I will keep trying. Guys, I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to join me. This is February 28th now. The date has changed. I'll have the new flyer up tomorrow. Trump 1 year and 1 month later. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Of course, the plan was to meet on January 24th for this, but we got snowed out. It happens. So we moved it to February 28th. Tickets.tonykatz.com. You're going to try 3 different bourbons. You're going to eat some incredible food, the live music. Everyone's going to red tie it up. It's going to be fantastic. Hyatt Regency, downtown Indianapolis. Tickets.tonykatz.com. It's going to be an incredible night. So much fun. I hope to see you there. Get your tickets. Get them now. We also opened up the VIP again. If you want to be a part of that, would love to see you there. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Get there. Be a part of it. It's going to be so much fun. How do Republicans win the midterms? And what have we learned in this first year and 1 month that helps them get there? Because right now, the odds are against them. So how do we get there? I want to see you there. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Absolutely. And yes, flag this channel as the best channel on YouTube. Wait, hold on. Producer Landon, is that what they meant? Oh, you think Skylar wants to take the channel down? All right. Thank you for the threat, Daniel. You're going to be in public after talking like this. We all understand that as the threat that it is. I was explaining to some people this weekend that every day is a threat. And I am just not a believer that it's just me alone. Not at all. I believe that we live in a world where anybody you disagree with, they feel like they have this right to be violent with you. But I was explaining to some people how my life is different in that regard. And I don't have the popularity of the celebrity as some of the guys who are on 500 stations or guys on TV or stuff like that. Not in the slightest. It's got to be much worse for them. But of course, every day, even in your feeds or something like this, you're going to be in public after talking like this. This guy is the reason why I have security. I do events. I have security. You know how insane it is? It's insane. Insane. I have some speaking engagements coming. And today it's a conversation. Okay, what is the security like? Because it has to be provided for. If not, I am not coming. I'm just me. That's who these people are. That is it. Ah, you see, this is him again. How violent is that guy? How much do I have to concern myself now with that guy trying to take a shot? And then, Tony, I don't always agree with what you say, but some things you do have a point, and I am not enough. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by not enough. I think you missed a word in there. But hey, we agree, we disagree. It's cool. Fine, right? That's the way most people are. I think we're all okay with that. Really and truly. I am man enough to say that. Okay. Now, thank you for rewriting it. Hey, man, thanks. And if we disagree, we disagree. And I appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoy the show. I really do. Really, really do. By the way, in case you were wondering whether this guy was threatening me, hey, producer Landon, you want to take down a name just to make sure we've got him on a list and make sure we know for future events that guys like this are out there? It'd be great. I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great if you would. So there it is. There it is. So with that, I appreciate you guys. I do have to go. The radio show continues at WIBC.com. I hope you'll subscribe right here on the YouTube channel and on X at Tony Katz. Really do hope you're a part of it. Can't thank you guys enough for being here. We'll always point out the madness, and we'll keep having fun. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you'll tell your friends to join as well. I appreciate you quite a bit. Let me just hold on a second. Okay, one more person to delete right there. I appreciate you guys. Can't thank you enough. I'll catch you tomorrow at noon. Y'all take care now.